Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome into your energy news beat here on this gorgeous Monday, March 29th, 2021. As always, I'm your humble correspondent, Michael Tanner, coming to you from an undisclosed location here in Bear Country. As always, also joined by the executive producer of the show, the purveyor of the show, the director and publisher of the world's greatest website, EnergyNewsBeat.com, Stuart Tilley. My man, how you doing?
Yeah, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and last night was a full moon. We had a mountain lion out here in Bear Country.
That's exactly what you were telling me. I woke up, almost found out I died last night. So it's a miracle the show's even taking place. Speaking of the show, guys, we have a great one for you lined up today. You can check all that and a bag of chips out to my left. But first, guys, continue to subscribe to the world's greatest YouTube channel, EnergyNewsBeat.com. We also have a Twitch channel at twitch.tv/EnergyNewsBeat. I don't know if we're not holding anything there yet, but we are now on Twitch. I want to do some stuff on there, so stay tuned for some Twitch stuff. You can also check us out online, EnergyNewsBeat.com, the best place for all of your energy news. It's legit just an IV of news in your veins. You can also download the world's greatest energy news app via the Google Play Store and or the Apple App Store. Market's interesting today, Stu. A lot of interesting things that happen. So let's read top-line indices first, then we'll work our way around sort of kind of the fallout. Right now, SPY trades about 1/4 percentage point on the downside. NASDAQ trades about 0.3 percentage point on the downside. Dow Jones is about up 1/4 percentage point. 10-year yields up 4 basis points. That's partly why you're seeing NASDAQ retreat a little bit. Inflation fears coming up. We heard on Friday 3 trillion in infrastructure. What?
Did you say inflation coming up?
Well, yeah, of course there's inflation coming up. But what I was going to say is we heard, you're going to get a kick out of this, Stu. I know you heard this, but we've got $3 trillion in infrastructure spending coming. White House Press Secretary Jim Paskey says today, there's another stimulus coming after infrastructure. So just keep the checks coming, baby. It's unbelievable. Like, I would love to be able to balance my budget like the government does.
And the next one says COVID. There's only $5 in there for COVID relief.
Well, at least at a $2.4 trillion price tag, it's actually about 7. But the big news of the day, and I'm sure a lot of people heard this, that's the forced liquidation of over $20 billion that happened on Friday and today, much of which is linked to Argus Capital Management, which is the family office of investment firm Bill Hwang. Stu, do you have any idea about this? Did you hear about this morning?
I did, and it's a good thing I didn't have any investments in it.
Yeah, let's just sort of break down what happened, because if you've been watching any news sources today, if you're reading it, it's a little hard to understand what's going on. I'll try to break it down for you as simply as possible. There are different rules for hedge funds versus family offices. You might ask, what is even the difference, or what even is a family office?
What is the family office?
A family office is somebody who has over $125 million that they set up to invest in public, private, or basically they set up as an investor. But if you invest more than $125 million as it's registered to one person, it's a family office. It in the past was a way for ex-billionaires, Bill Gates, all of the old school 80s and 90s billionaires set up family offices. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that's a family. That's not a family office, I don't think. But it's Gates Ventures. Everyone heard of Gates Ventures. That's a family office. Bezos, they all have their family office. But in old school days, it was a way for family office. It was a way for billionaires to park all of their money and trade it under their own name, but it's a family office. They don't take outside money. They just work with the prime brokerage and trade their own money. Well, as of recent, a lot of people have been becoming rich. There's a lot of family offices out there, and the gray line between what a family office is and what a hedge fund is has begun to blur. And why that makes a difference is twofold. One, hedge funds are required to disclose exactly how much they hold of that stock. They're required to say when they trade it and their ownership of it. Family offices, it's a little less strict on that one. And so what happened is this. Bill Hwang's investment firm, which is Argus Capital, basically got margin called on Friday. So to give you an idea, for the past 6 months, without anybody knowing this, and we'll get back to why nobody knew what was going on when we get back to kind of the rules about how, but basically, Argus Capital was able to acquire from around, and this is where the numbers get a little hairy. His family office was about $6 billion. He had anywhere between 6 to 7 times leverage. So he had anywhere of $40 to $50 billion worth of supposed equity derivatives positions out there that were driving long-only purchases. This was apparently a long-short fund, which was heavily leveraged toward the long side. And as you can see, the market began to rip. S&P 500 was been ripping the past couple months. Well, for whatever reason, there was a margin call or large, their prime broker, and there was a margin call. And so you might ask, well, Mike, how, one, if it's his own money, why is he getting margin called? And two, how is he able to maintain leverage? Well, there's these things called prime brokers. If you've logged on to E-Trade, you use a brokerage. But a prime brokerage is for the rich people. It's a physical guy on the other end of the line that you have a relationship with who provides liquidity to you and provides institutional trading services to people who have large sums of money. Family offices included are one of the largest client bases of prime brokerages. Who has prime brokerages? Well, all of the major banks: Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan Chase, Credit Suisse, who you're about to find, we're about to hear about in a little bit, get pounded. But there's all sorts of large investment banks all have prime brokerage desks. Well, there's these things called equity swaps, Stu, and we've talked about hedging swaps on the commodity side.
It's not wife swap.
No.
Okay.
The commodity oil swap is pretty straightforward. You say, I'm going to swap current day production for a future price. Well, you can do that on the equity side. There's these things called equity swaps, which basically one side, aka the family office, buys a fixed interest rate, aka in this case probably the LIBOR curve. Whereas the counterparty, the prime broker, goes out and buys this buys this pre-agreed upon index of stocks. Basically, Stu says, Stu's the hedge fund, I'm the prime broker, okay? Stu goes out and says, I'm going to buy at the current interest rates. Yeah, 10-year yields, what are they? 1.7%. Maybe it's not treasury bonds. Maybe it's about 2 percentage points. And then he says, I'm going to buy that interest rate, and then I want that guaranteed return, because interest rates have a guaranteed rate of return. That's why you buy 10-year bonds. You go out and buy some number of equities, pool them in a basket, and you use that as basically the insurance for my guaranteed payment every single month. It's what's called an equity swap. Well, these equity swaps at Argus Capital got bigger and bigger and bigger until 6 times leverage, Stu. And you know what that required? That required over $20 billion being margin called between Friday and Monday. Shares of Viacom CBS, who just spent billions and billions of dollars on the NFL, saw their stock pair decrease over 25%. Credit Suisse put out a note this morning, Stu, warning clients of significant losses due to large block trades coming out of its prime brokerage. Their shares tumbled over 10.9 percentage points. Goldman Sachs owns. There could be as many as 6 prime brokerages. You might ask, why didn't we know about this? Well, again, it's the family office stuff. It's a wildly interesting story, and I went maybe a little too long on it, but it's an unbelievable what's happening. Basically, these equity swaps were used and shopped around to different prime brokerages in order to basically not game the system, but skirt rules. That we did. Argus Capital had no 13F filings, which means we had no idea these were out there. Because what happens is the prime brokers keep the shares on the books. So when when CBS looks at their 13F and says, who owns us? It's just institutions. No, it's not. It's Argus Capital in the form of equity swaps. If you own more than 10% of a U.S. public company, that has to be publicly disclosed. 1, he did none of that. 2, a couple of his positions, he was maybe over 15, 20, 25% ownership. Talk about some steep regulations here. So to boil all that down, all that being said, Stu, it was a crazy day in the stock market. It was what everything was talking about. Just an unbelievable turn of events. When we look at what happened on the oil and gas side, Suez Canal gets opened up, but we do still see about a 3/4 percentage point ride on that crude oil. 61.42 on the front one, Brent 64.86, back end of the WTI curve 59.08. Stu will have an update on the Suez Canal. The 500 ships maybe still, so it's not over yet, folks. It's not over yet. What is that movie from? It's SpongeBob. It's not over yet, folks. $2.65 is about 3% upside on natural gas. Looks like it's going to be a little colder. Yay! We need some weather on that natty gas side. About $2.83 on the back end of the curve. XOP, which is our EMP securities contract, it falls 2.8 percentage points today. OIH down 2.97 percentage points. Couple companies on the downside to check out. CDEV down 7. Contango, they're down 9.5. And High Point, again, off the back of bankruptcy, they're down 18.7 percentage points. On the upside, we got a couple numbers. American Resource Corporation, Natural Resource Partners, they're up 4 percentage points. New Concept Energy up 5.9. Silverbow, one of our favorite companies, they're up 1.5 percentage points. BTU and our BTU ticker symbol, Peabody Energy, they're up 1.7. Internationally, Stu, give me what you got.
I'll tell you, it's kind of funny. This morning, the New York Post put out Suez Canal ship crisis may unleash worldwide toilet paper shortage. So everybody run out and let's make a run on the toilet paper.
I'm in.
Anyway, okay. It is, CNN just put out that it is free, totally 100% free. So they even got the bulbous nose loose, which is yay. But there's about 500 ships that are still, there's only about 70 to 80 ships allowed through the channel at one time. Now, it takes 12 hours to go through this, so the math is going to be really horrible. It's going to be about 2 weeks to get the backlog as it gets continued.
And that's why you're seeing crude oil, in my opinion, spike 1% today. I mean, just because it's clear does not mean this fall. What is it? You said 500 ships?
Yeah, and it's growing. So, and then there's a ton of tankers. I'm trying to find out how many, but they have an additional cost of $5,000 of fuel a day. So, and then the other one is there may have been pilot error, if you can imagine that. And so in the words of Scooby, and the captain was Rut-row Shaggy. So anyway, all that being said,
but what do you so what do they mean pilot error? Because the original story was high winds. Basically, it was low visibility, high winds, and when you see an image of the Suez Canal, there's much room for a ship like the Ever Given to really move around. So I'm a little confused. Are they just using this to? They got to blame somebody?
I think they do. And unfortunately, the captain, even though they have a pilot on, everybody gets a pilot.
It's not the captain.
Captain is still in charge, and the captain is going to be going down, not with his ship, but they're going to throw him under the ship. They're going to hope a barnacle gets a hold of him. So anyway, it'll be interesting. It's sad that they are, and that is through, anyway, it was put out on ET, which is the energy group out of India. So now, this being said, Russia and OPEC, you and I covered last meeting last month. Russia got a minor increase. Okay. You and I talked about them continuing to get a minor increase. The Russia is going to go, hey, we don't mind a little more oil. They're now pushing for more oil very nice and slowly, succinctly. So they're going to try and hold it, but you're still going to see prices increase thanks to Russia. Yeah,
that'll be great.
Here in a second.
Yeah, again, all of those stories via the world's greatest energy news website, energynewsbeat.com. I'm only got a couple stories. I talked too much about equity swaps today. A lot of utility stuff today. Stu, I got a crack out of this. Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, he's trying to scam you guys down in Texas. You heard about this deal he's going on? Berkshire Hathaway on Friday, and it just has been leaking this morning, has proposed backup storage facility building in Texas. in which his companies would build 10 gigawatts of gas-fired plants plus associated gas storage for $8.3 billion under the guise of this new entity called the Texas Reliability Corporation. To give you an idea, Stu, this would be about, as I said, 10 gigawatts of backup storage to be controlled by ERCOT. But get this, funded by Berkshire, but they want to add 9.3 percentage points in terms of their return. Guess who's paying, Stu? You. Buffett at it again, baby.
You know what? Actually, Biden's paying for it, and then all the poor people are paying for it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think this is going to get approved. I think, I think with the fallout from Buffett and Oxy, from the fact that he's still reaping rewards over his Goldman shares back in the 2008 financial crisis, I just think, he loves insurance. He owns Geico. He owns multiple different insurance companies. This is an insurance. Hey, I will give you 10. That's basically what he said. They have over 140 billion of cash to deploy. If they're just looking to move it, I just think it's funny. This is a terrible deal. Don't. If you're Texas, I'll help you with you do it. No, we'll do that ourselves. 9.3 percentage points. Yikes. Well, there's gonna be a lot of wind energy, Stu. I saw this thing on Market Watch. Press Secretary Jim Paskey came out today and said the administration is pushing for new wind energy jobs over the form of 30 gigawatts of offshore wind powered by 2030. But they also want to do this while protecting biodiversity in oceans. We want to protect the oceans by putting more things in it. So, exactly. So if it confuses you, we agree. Here's what they want to do. They want to provide. They break this whole down. Basically, they're claiming $12 billion in capital investments will be tied to these leases. More than 44,000 workers will be employed by these by 2030. 30,000 additional jobs in communities supported by offshore wind activity. The issue is this: we've already had the permitting process for wind in the United States is slow and it's dead, and it's not dead, but it's lifeless. Offshore wind, extremely expensive. I mean, wildly expensive. It's not terribly environmentally friendly. Sorry, Joe. The cat's out of the bag on that one. I'll just be very interested, Stu. Who bids on these leases? They claim they want 30 gigawatts. That's 3% of daily energy impact. Okay, I can live with that. Who's buying these leases, though? Who are these companies?
I don't know, but they're going to have a shortage of installation ships, and the amount of crews that are going to be putting in those extra wind farms are not oil folks that we love and hold dear to ourselves. So,
yeah, I agree. I think it's laughable to think somebody's slinging a pipe. I'm sitting here in some small town that nobody's heard of. To think somebody living here is going to be slinging a pipe offshore in New Jersey? Come on.
Nope.
Exactly. But, see, there's another stimulus coming. Don't worry. We've got another stimulus coming. We miss anything today? I hope everybody understands what an equity swap is. I didn't mean to spend too much time around that. But
no, speaking of twitchy.
I felt it needed to be done.
All right.
Cool.
Hey,
with that, guys.
Day.
It was a good day, guys. It's gorgeous out here. I'm gonna let you guys get out of here, get back to work, finish up your day. For Stuart Turley, I'm Michael Tanner. Thanks for checking us out. World's greatest energy news website, available on all platforms. We will see you guys tomorrow in the Energy Beat.